Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 5th season of the Simsport Racing GT4 Championship. This evening, we get things underway at the fantastic Oulton Park in Cheshire in the UK. But before we talk about tonight's action, why don't we take a look back at the finale from Season 4 at Snetterton.
We are green for the final time this season, and look at the pair of these Simsport Racing McLarens of both Mitchell and Haley trying to get the jump on the likes of Button and all, as Dendy starts getting away, but Kieran Vidago has already got enough into second as McGregor runs wide, coming through Riches.
Towards Nelson and Brundle, as this is Regan Mitchell looking to the inside of McGregor. He might get the job done. Such a tricky braking zone here as you brake and turn left and he's through. Can he get it stopped for the right? Oh, just about. 4 wheels off over the curb. That's going to drop him back. That's going to allow McGregor back through. Button having a sniff at the opportunity as it looked like there was a bit of drama. Cameron Fife going side by side with the Mercedes. Was it Visaliovic through the bomb hole, and he's managed to get through slightly slow on the exit. That's going to allow Hedges drift today, looking for a way through. It's been a side-by-side contact with Cameron Fife managing to keep them behind. That was clever driving. Groh managing to keep the position for now, but challenging by Tobin Lee, who's now looking for a way through behind. He's just about done enough into Agostini. Oh, as he gets a slide and he's round, and there's contact with Lee there. That's allowed Richards around the outside, and in fact that's allowed Munro through as well.
Looking to fire it up the inside, through on Regan Mitchell, and he gets past, and Michael O'Brien tries to squeeze through as well, and Regan Mitchell gets a couple of taps for his troubles.
As we see Luka Berk looking to the inside of Haley into Murray's. Exactly what you're saying. As Haley runs wide, this might allow Berk through. Haley stuck on the grass, he can't rejoin. Position gain for Berk. Fantastic sim racing action. So as we see Bro now actually looking to the inside of McIntyre, who's probably a bit damaged, might be a bit down on straight line speed. As we've seen, Bro has actually been involved in some drama, and behind, look who it is, the number 99 McLaren of Walker. His day's kind of gone from bad to worse, hasn't it, with that spin and contact with Tobin Lee.
Utley runs wide, and that allows Schlitter to get through, and then Wilkes gets blocked inadvertently there as Utley was trying to get himself back into the thing of things. Turn around for Schlitter, and Schlitter collects not just Ranbury but also that was Haffenden.
Groh now looking for a way past Supervicious into Brundle. So tricky here, and Supervicious managing to hold it around the outside as they come into Brundle. He's done a fantastic job there, but Groh able to get the cut back as they come up through to the bomb hole, and he gets his way through on the inside. Walker sees the opportunity and pounces. He gets past the car that he came unstuck with. Look, he's weaving. Look, he knows that the Mercedes is close. He's still trying to break that slipstream. But I wonder whether there's fuel question marks at play, like we've seen O'Brien drop off the back of Button. We have seen a number of drivers be forced to play, take things a little bit easier with the right foot to save some fuel. I wonder whether O'Brien's had to do the same.
But one more corner remains. Now onto the braking zone. Out of Murray's for the final time. The pair run wide, but Will Dendy in the number 28 has led from lights out to checkered flag, and he takes the season finale. The victory here at Snetterton.
Well, a thrilling finale at Snetterton to end season 4, but we turn our minds now to the start of this, a brand new season It's got that back to school feeling, but with no school necessary. So plenty of racing action to enjoy. Hello to everyone who's watching on the YouTube stream, to Andrew Fife, to Paul, to Kieran Vidago, who's a Simsport regular, Jorge Villa, as well as Frankie Helliwell. Thank you for joining us. And in the commentary box alongside me this evening, partner in crime and a good friend, David Wressell, but a star-studded appearance from our Season 2 Simsport GT4 champion, Stephen Haley, is joining us in the commentary box. And Stephen, how are you doing? And it's going to be a bit weird watching on from the sidelines.
Good evening, Jenson. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's going to be very different. Sat behind the scenes, I really do wish I could be racing. There's a lot of new names taking part this season, so really looking forward to see how we're all going to get on.
Brilliant. Well, it's a pleasure to have you here. And David, we saw the highlights section from Snetterton last time out. But looking back at last season, Luka Berk was the man to beat. 2 race victories and storming to his first title in his first season. But the question mark is he going to be able to defend his title and become the first multiple champion in this series?
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. Yeah, good evening, everyone. Hope you're all well. And you mentioned it there. No one's managed to get successive championships. But if you're going to ask anyone who's got a chance of doing it, Luka's definitely up there with one of those who is going to have a good chance. He's in a Porsche, and we know it's a strong car, especially at tracks like we're at this evening in the Oulton Park. So who knows? But he's certainly got a good chance, hasn't he?
Exactly, and a stellar grid indeed lined up. The returning Alex Buncombe and Jenson taking part this evening, as well as regulars from our other Simsport series, such as the GT3 series, which is racing here at Oulton Park at the weekend. But a little quick highlight on the format of this evening's adventure. The first race of the season kicks off with a 15-minute qualifying, which sets the grid for race 1, a 45-minute sprint race from flag to flag. And then going forwards from race 1 onto the remaining 5 rounds, the top 15 from the previous event are reversed. So finish 15th, you find yourself lining up on pole position next time out. And Stephen, this is a unique format for the Simsport Racing portfolio. It sometimes throws a bit of a curveball, but this qualifying session in race 1 can make or break a season to some extent.
It certainly can, yes. I think obviously trying to qualify in the top 15, that's your kind of major aim. But yeah, it really works well, and it's given us some very good varied race results and some fantastic racing for that fact.
And David, we are at the first round, which is Oulton Park, and it's the debut appearance of this circuit on the GT4 calendar. A unique circuit in many respects. The walls are close. There's not much runoff or room for error, and it's certainly going to be testing the drivers this evening.
Absolutely, Tim. Yeah, not the easiest track to overtake on, of course, as well. There is enough places to make a move, but you've got to have a mixture of compliance with the other driver you're trying to get past, and a mixture of, I would say, measured aggression as well. You don't want to go too hot into some corners. You've got the Shell Oil hairpin down at the bottom end of the track. There's a chance of overtaking. You've got into his lops and out of Knickerbrook. You've got areas to overtake, but you've got to set it up a couple of corners in advance. And obviously, we saw that in Sunday in the Ginetta Brit Sprint. Now, that was much more a test of racecraft, obviously, with it being a spec series, so no difference in terms of machinery. But in these cars, you obviously have got different machinery. We've got a couple of Porsches on the grid. We've got some BMWs, Aston Martins, a handful of Ginettas, as we can see the guys are starting to hedge their bets as they run in both series across the week. But yeah, it's going to be a really interesting one, and Oulton Park is definitely a great way to start the season.
Indeed, the 2.692 mile circuit, made famous for its appearances in the British Touring Cars Championship as well as British GT, but it marks the first round in a 6-race season. When we leave Oulton Park, we head to Donington on the 10th of March before going to Milan, Monza for the 3rd round, the halfway point of the season on the 17th. We then fly to Suzuka on the 24th of March, Hungary on the 31st before finishing off the season at Silverstone on the 7th of April. Now, I would like to boast that I finished on the podium in Simsport Racing's GT4 in those last 3 races at some point during my time in the season, in the series. But someone who knows all too well about finishing on the podium is Mr. Stephen Haley. Stephen, any of those tracks that stand out to you? I know they're all pretty spectacular in Assetto Corsa Competizione, but any of those that you're really excited to see the action at?
Yeah, for sure. Donington is a classic British circuit, club circuit, and I'm looking forward to seeing the guys, battling it out around there. Suzuka has always would have been one of my favourites, for sure. Monza is also that's just a classic track. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing them go around all of them.
Brilliant stuff. And I suppose the age-old adage is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And with Ballast coming on board last season in Season 4, we really saw the racing mixed up. And again, for Season 5, we've seen cars hit with anywhere between 10 kilos and 50 kilos in terms of ballast applied. That being the Porsche Cayman has been the heaviest to be hit. But David, do we really think that those 50 kilos are going to stop Luka Berk?
I mean, it's going to be difficult for us to stop him, isn't it? I mean, we're physically going to stop him. That'd be quite difficult. But it's not going to be easy for everyone else, of course. We know how quick Luka is. I mean, he proved it last season, didn't he, when he was as far away the best driver on the field, it seemed, based on the amount of quality he brought to the championship. But there's plenty of people out there, and there's plenty of people who are good at this. And, of course, if we take a real-world look into the action at Oulton Park, of course, Michael O'Brien, who's in the McLaren this evening, did actually win at the British GT here last year, so he knows what it takes to win around Oulton Park.
He's got the experience, and he'll certainly want to put that into action this evening. As we say, a jam-packed grid of returning names like Aidan Brough from the Butler Powell Motorsports team. That particular squad coming with 4 entries this evening, so it's nice to see Aidan with a few dogs in the pack, shall we say. But also, we've got the returning names. We've got Dave Hedges. Many of you will be familiar with Dave. You're part of the Simsport community. Mark Raddenbury, of course, our AM Class champion in Season 4, will be looking to defend his title across Season 5. But, Stephen, it's really great to see a mix of drivers. We do have these pro drivers in the real world. We have some fantastic sim racers. But anyone can race. Anyone can get involved. And anyone can turn up and have some exciting on-track action on a Wednesday evening.
Absolutely, yeah. I think if you wanted to get involved in some great racing, I think all you got to do is just hook us up. Look for us and get signed up, and you could be one of the guys that's racing with with the great bunch of guys that we've got. Fast, hard, clean racing. So yeah.
Fantastic stuff. Yes, if you want to get involved, you can find links to our Discord and, of course, all our social media, Simsport Racing, if you want to follow along with the action. But turning to tonight's event, the drivers are in their drivers' briefing, an important thing to get underway at the start of the season. Just set out the rules, set out the lay of the land, let drivers know what's to be had there out on track. But as we turn to qualifying, David, we do say about how important this first and only qualifying event is of the season, as we hear that the green flag has flown on this qualifying session. But it's such a different mindset, isn't it, to going racing for 45 minutes. You've got to lay it out on the line, leave it all on the track, and set your best lap time.
Absolutely, Tim. And they have got the benefit, of course, with it being simulation. Damage isn't as much of a factor until you get right towards the back end of qualifying and you're potentially on your final flying lap. So it does give them the benefit that they can actually push probably a little bit harder than you normally would. Yes, it can make some accidents here and there, but it gives them a chance to really put the pedal to the metal and leave it all out on track, as it were. And it'll be interesting to see who we're going to see out on top. Of course, as we've mentioned a few times, got an incredibly high quality grid this evening for the rest of the season, so I'm really looking forward to seeing who's going to finish this one and only qualifying session out on top.
Well, nearly 40 drivers on track at the moment, 38 are in the server, so there's not going to be much property and track space to share out on the circuit. The camera focus now on Rene Butler from Butler Powell Motorsport in the 228 Ginetta. He's a commentator as well. He takes part in some VLN races. And I'm pretty sure, I think, David, maybe if we comment on his racing and he can give us some feedback on our commentary, I think that sounds like a fair deal, doesn't it?
I think it does, yeah. Maybe you can give me some tips on how to be a bit faster around the track as well, because I'm sure wouldn't be lighting a candle to many of these lot. But yeah, brilliant to have him in there. He's actually in the AM class this evening, so it'd be interesting to see how he gets on in that respectively. Of course, up against Mark, who we can now see starting his flying lap. Of course, like you mentioned, Tim, last year's AM champions. It'd be interesting to see if he can carry it on the right foot and get a good result to kick things off as well.
Roddenberry then, rounding Old Hall corners. He heads towards Cascade in the Ginetta, running a different livery this time, some more positive perception branding on both sides. He's ditched the bright green and blue that donned his car last season, heading out towards Island Bend. And Stephen, is there a particular corner on the track that you think is a real important place for lap time? We know that the Shell Oils hairpin that Mark's coming into now is a particularly tricky corner, or is this track just tricky all round?
I think for the most part it is quite tricky, but I mean I think both chicanes are very tricky, and I think you can gain and lose a lot of valuable time there. The double right-hander towards the back of the track also. I think if you can get a good flow and a good line through there, I think you can make up a good amount of time.
As Roddenberry then comes into the Hislop chicane, they need to turn right through Knickerbrook and head up the hill towards Druids. Nice clean exit through there, not using too much of the track exit. Here's Cameron Fife in the number 13 Aston Martin from Cameron Fife Motorsport. And Fife was really an improved driver last season. We saw him getting in towards the top 15, getting used to his new sim rig that he's very proud of at the start of last season as he comes through the Shell Oils hairpin. One of the AM class drivers, he'll be looking to improve on his 4th place in that championship this season and see if he can challenge the likes of Roddenberry and Wilkes. Here's Luka Berk, the reigning champion. He hasn't opted to take number 1. Instead, he's taking the number 87 that we know the Zansho Simsport driver carries with him through other series as he heads out down this lovely back stretch here towards the Island Bend and the Shell Oils hairpin. Got some nice clean track around him, and that's all you want, David, isn't it? In track, get your eyes on every apex, no cars around you causing you distraction.
Absolutely, Tim. Yeah, it's one of those tracks that you are pretty much 100% the whole way around. There's very, very little time for you to really take a second just to have a breather, apart from down the back straight after Cascades. You see Matt Richards going through there at the moment with his current pole sitter at a 1:41.6. So yeah, it's not really a track for any kind of peace and quiet apart from where they are at the moment. So something that does benefit them, like you say, is having a bit of clear air in front of them. Now, it can be useful to have your braking markers, but I think we saw one of the drivers a moment ago, I think he had Steam Passport, who had a driver right in front of him. That's not going to help you because, yes, they might be quick enough, but realistically, you want a bit of that prime real estate like Matt seems to be affording himself now, just to give yourself a bit of breathing room. So if anyone does make a mistake in front of you, which is more than possible, you've still got enough time for that not to really impact your flying lap.
Richards, who qualified on the front row of the Simsport Racing Ginetta British Sprint Series on Sunday evening, been knocked off top spot by Jenson Buttle in the 22 Alpine Rocket Esports. But here's Luka Berk coming across the line to set his first lap. A 1:42 puts him in 4th place at the moment. He's joining Michael O'Brien in the number 7 McLaren for Rocket Esports on the 2nd row of the grid. So it's Button leads the way at the moment with a 41.6, followed by Matt Richards over, it's 0.08 of a second behind. So really close between the pole sitter and 2nd place at the moment. As we see Yannick Muller actually jumps to the top of the time. So it's an Alpine 1-2 at the moment. But Aaron Markin Pilkington here in the Tron Racing 626 BMW going quicker, 3/10. That will see him improve. See if he can jump up a couple of positions and knock Luka Berk off 6th place as he comes down round into the final corner. He'll go through Deer Leap here as the track climbs up and weaves over to the left-hand side. He'll stay over to the left for the shortest run to the line. And he improves, but not enough to gain many positions as it looks like Tusting has gone faster in the McLaren as well. Aidan Bro now jumping up to 6th place in the 556 Ginetta, opting to run the Ginetta in the GT4 Championship alongside the Ginetta Sprint Series. Michael O'Brien here coming down the hill towards Hislop, so 1:41.9, his fastest lap time so far, 2/10 up on his time. So he could knock Tusting off that 4th place and reclaim a 2nd row position. But it seems like he's lost it actually through the exit of Knickerbrook, and he's heading towards Druids here. So let's see if he can gain back any more time. Throws the car into this double right-hander, uses all the track available on the left-hand side. Those curbs, which could be your friend sometimes decide to bite you, as we saw in the Ginetta series. Through the final corner then, 3 tenths now up on his time is Michael O'Brien, running wide there over the final corner. He might have his track time invalidated as he crosses the line and improves to 3rd place within a tenth. So the top 3 now within a tenth. Some close times already coming in, and here is Jenson Button, current pole sitter. And in this kind of position, Stephen, if you had pole in the bag, are you going to rest on your laurels, or will you be going back out to set a faster time?
For sure, you never rest on your laurels. If there's time to get another 2 laps in, you go out and you do your laps. Them times are so close. I don't think you could leave it to any chance. It's interesting seeing the Ginettas and certainly the Alpines. Been the top 3 cars this time. It's fascinating.
Obviously, the Ginettas and the Alpines not laden with ballast in this GT4 series, as we see Jenson coming towards the line to go faster. So a 41.4, 3 thousandths of a second is the current provisional pole margin. That is absolutely ludicrous, David.
3 thousandths
That
of a
is
second.
incredible, isn't it? I mean, he was 2nd position. Was he Gavin Utley going very sideways through Island Bend and into the wall? Obviously, I mean, he'll dip that back into the pits and go again. But I mean, yeah, I noticed as Steve was talking there, as Jenson went through Druids, he was 2nd place. I think it was by Matt Richards, and then he's just, like you say, gone and put it on provisional pole once more. So that's success ballast, or sorry, thereby lack of success ballast that the Alpine and the Ginetta have. I think they're the only 2 cars on track that don't have any ballast whatsoever. Even the BMW, I think, has got 10 kilos, if my memory serves me correctly. It's proving to be quite useful, as Benjamin Tusting at the moment in the number 64 Mob 7 Zansho Esports McLaren is currently a few tenths up as well, so he's going to be looking to improve and potentially try and get himself on the front row, or even better, as Michael O'Brien has now gone and got himself pole. And you can see at the moment, Tim, the top 3 separated by 600ths of a second, so a little bit close.
Well, they're having trouble deciding who's going to start on pole and who's going to have to follow in behind. But Tusting here in the 64 coming towards the final corner, gets the car stopped and turned in nicely through Lodge, and as he runs over the curb on the left hand side up through Deer Leap, he flashes past the camera and to cross the line to take pole position. So another change at the top with less than 6 minutes to go, of 41.2 now the benchmark from the Mob 7 Zansho Esport driver. But Will Dendy here, one of the drivers who competed last season, eventually finishing 16th in the championship. Pretty sure he'll be after much more than that this season. So he comes down the back stretch towards the final corner at Lodge. We'll see how he gets on as he gets the car turned in. A slight bit of understeer maybe through the middle of the corner, running out over the curb, keeping 2 wheels within the white line as he heads towards the timing line, crosses it and jumps up to 7th place. So an improvement from Dendy, but not enough to see him challenge the times at the top. He's still 7 tenths off pole positions. Looks like Daniel Andrews is improving on his time, 2 tenths in hand at the moment. That could see him jump ahead of Gavin Utley and get himself up to 12th position if possible, through Lodge again, up through Deer Leap. You just stay left, least line of resistance as he crosses the line and jumps up to 12th indeed. So on the fringes of the top 10, 1.4 seconds off the pace at the moment, 4.5 minutes to go. Philip Matchik here in one of the 4 Butler Powell Motorsport cars, but in one of the 2 BMWs, crosses the line to take 15th place at the moment. And Regan Mitchell here in one of the Maseratis, 2 tenths up, flying through Island Bend. And Stephen, that Maserati is really a beast to try and tame, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It really is. But I mean, Regan's done a season. He may have done 2 seasons in that car, so he's well versed to how to handle that, and he does fantastic in it.
And at a track like Oulton Park, do you want a car that is a bit more powerful and a bit more slidey to help you get turned into these, tricky corners like the chicane? You see he's got a bit of traffic there from one of the Ginettas, and that looks like his lap time has rather been ruined. It's gone entirely, actually. So do you want a car that's maybe a bit lively at the rear to help with rotation? Or do you just want something that's as stable as possible, even if it means a bit of understeer and a bit of lifting into corners?
It depends on the kind of driving style which you have, I suppose. Personally, I do like a bit of a little bit of a loose end, rear end, so you can actually turn it on that. But a lot of guys I know prefer the understeering type of car, which is what a lot of the professionals kind of tend to prefer. But yeah, it's all down to down to personal preference, and now you can get Aiden looks to be on a faster lap than he has been at the moment. So
half a second up then as he comes across the line. Fourth place finish in the championship last time out. Moves up to third place. 2/10 now off the time of Tustin in the 64 as he pulls over to the right-hand side, and he'll return to pit lane. Aaron Martin Pilkington here in the 626 Tron Racing BMW heads into Lodge, gets the car stopped just about, uses all the available track on the left-hand side, runs up through Dear Elite, and we'll see where he can go as he crosses the line. Stays ninth, so no improvement, but he might be gearing up for another hot lap with less than 2.5 minutes to go. The order as it stands at the moment: Tusting leads O'Brien by 0.16 tenths of a second. That's absolutely outrageous in this first qualifying session. Bro and Button are on the second row as it stands, with Richards improving 0.3 we hear he has in the pocket at the moment. So as he rounds Lodge, climbs up through Dearly, let's see if he can knock Tusting off pole position, and we'll see another change at the top, and we do. And with 1 minute 50 seconds left, David, no idea who's going to take this one.
No, it's quite impressive, isn't it? Luka Berk now half a second up, so he's going to put himself up in around about 5th or 6th place. I'm sure he'll be wanting to displace Jenson, but of course we know those two have got a, what should we call it, a friendly rivalry after the last couple of seasons, and he does, and goes 4th of the 141.3. I mean, Matt Richards, what a lap that is from him, but I mean, credit to Benjamin Tusting. First race of Simsport Racing in the McLaren. He's got 40 kilos of ballast on board that thing, and he's managed to pull out a lap like he has. That's really quite impressive, and we'll see most of these guys will now be going on to, if not on their final lap. See Michael O'Brien going through Nickelbrook at the moment. We'll see if he's going to improve on his current third place position, because he'll be wanting to try and get a little bit further up. Of course, if you're on the odd side of the grid, it is going to give you that benefit of being on the inside going into Old Hall Corner for the first time. So even if he doesn't, I'm sure if he can keep it in third, I'm sure he'll be quite happy with his display so far.
Well, we hear he's got time in the hand at the moment, 1/10. That might not be enough to claim pole position, but if he can find time through the final corner at Lodge, he might be able to get himself up onto the front row, up through Dearly, stays over to the left-hand side, take the shortest line to run to the line, and he's 2/10 faster, and does indeed knock Tusting off the front row, a gap of 300ths of a second. It is incredible how close these times are. The top 11 separated by a second, but the top 4 separated by the best part of 2.5 tenths, as we see Luka Berk looking like he's going to improve with less than 20 seconds on the time around the Druids corner. Gets the car exited nice and cleanly, no kicking up of dust or running over that exit curb, over the crests down towards Lodge corner, gets the car in very nicely indeed. Power down and really keep that pedal and push it harder through the floor than you ever have done. Stays left across the line with a 10th in hand, and he improves, but it's not enough to better his position. He stays 4th on the grid, and that will be his final attempt at pole position, with Richards in the pit lane leading at the moment, with Michael O'Brien still out on track wanting to better his time. We see Philip Matzik here in one of the Butler Powell Motorsport BMWs. He's 3/10 up on his time, so that could see him knock Alex Buncombe out of the top 10 if he can hold that advantage to the line. The checkered flag is out, so drivers will be completing their final lap times. They won't get another chance to better this one. A nice clean exit by Matzik heading up to the line, and we'll see if he can improve his position, and he does. He leaps well up inside the top 10. A fantastic lap from Matzik there to get up to 8th position. But Michael O'Brien is improving, 2/10 up as he runs through the final corner, uses all of the curb and then some on the exit. He's lost time as he runs to the line. Can he improve? He does, by a 10th to knock Richards off pole. And it looks like Michael O'Brien has taken the first pole position of Simsport Racing GT4 Season 5. But what a qualifying session, David.
Wow, I mean, what a lap that was from Michael O'Brien right at the deficit, again with that 40 kilo ballast on there as well. It did look like I know you said he was 2 tenths up going into Lodge. I thought he'd lost all of that, to be honest, but he seemed to have got a decent exit because he did look like he was very, very understeery going into that final corner, but he managed to pull it back and managed to put a fantastic lap in. And he's going to have, well, no pun intended, it's going to be he's going to be on pole position for the start of this race. Of course, 45 minutes, flag to flag, so there's no pit stops or anything involved. He will be hoping for a nice clean run into turn number one, as if he can drive off into the distance, have a nice clean race for himself.
So, Stephen, we say it's 45 minutes, it's flag to flag, it is a sprint race to some extent, but really it's all about managing the opportunities that they present as they present themselves, isn't it? You don't want to get hot-headed and get in an instant early on, but 45 minutes can sometimes seem a lot longer than it actually is.
It can and it can't. It's a very strange thing. Obviously, 45 minutes. If you're sitting and watching something, it's a fair time. But obviously, when you're driving and you're in the heat of battle, especially when you're catching somebody at half a tenth the second a lap or whatever, you can never have long enough. To be fair.
And obviously, the first only qualifying session of the season. Then we're straight into race action, and then round 2, reverse grid top 15. Would you say you yourself more of a qualifying driver or a race driver? Where did you find you excelled more?
Myself, I don't. I mean, I tended to qualify not too badly. I wish I could qualify better. Obviously, the further up the front you are, the better stead you are for the race. But I think I'm probably a better racer than I am a qualifier.
Well, let's give you the run through the order before they head out on the parade lap for taking the green flag. It's Michael O'Brien that took pole position, the number 7 Rocket Esports McLaren with a time of 1:41.109. Then it's Matt Richards behind in the 44 Ginetta, a 0.051 of a second, the margin between those two on the front row. Then it's Tusting and Berk who share the second row. Aidan Bro in the 556 Ginetta is joined by Jenson Button, the number 22 Alpine. And it's Yannick Muller, one of the other Alpines, in 7th place, with Matzic in the 251 BMW in 8th. Then it's Will Dendy and Aaron Martin Pilkington in the 626 Tron Racing BMW that round out the top 10. Alex Buncombe then in the 23 Porsche is 11th, ahead of Chris Shaw in the 58 Mob 7 Esports Zansho McLaren. Then we have Luke Rogers in the 211 Ginetta 13th, Andrews 14th, Mitchell 15th, with Lem in 16th, Utley in the other Alpine, the third of the 3 cars taking to the grid this evening, in 17th. With Marquez 1.8 seconds back in 18th. And to round out your top 20 positions, we have Johannes Weiss in the 271 and Mark Raddenbury, the Season 4 GT4 AM champion, starts on the 20th position on the grid. But looking towards the race, David, if you had to pick someone you're going to be keeping your eye on, I know there's plenty of stars in the field this evening that are going to be at the heart of the action, but if you had to pick someone maybe just to keep an eye on, is it going to be Luka Berk or is it going to be someone else?
Well, I mean, you're sport for choice, Tim, aren't you? There's plenty of people you keep an eye out for. Of course, we saw a handful of these at Oulton Park on Sunday evening. So Matt Richards, Aidan Bro are going to be ones to keep an eye out for. If I was to look at a dark horse, I'd probably say one of the Alpines, to be completely honest with you. We know they've got no ballast, so we know how quick they are. And I think there's potential for them to get quicker as the race goes on as well. If I had to pick, I probably would say Jenson Button, but I'll go for Yannick Muller for this one, just to avoid going for the former Formula 1 world champion. I think that seems fair.
Well, I turn the question to you, Mr. Stephen Haley. Who would you have your eye on?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many names that you could pick from. But yeah, Yannick, he's very fast. And hopefully he doesn't get bullied too much. But I think Aidan's a fast guy, and he's in the car. That's probably more suited to this kind of circuit. But yeah, the Ginettas, the Alpines, you can't discount them at all. But yeah, we've got we've got Aaron Pilkington there in the BMW as well. Al Buncombe, you can't discount any of them. It's a 45-minute race. Anything can happen. As we've seen, it usually does.
Exactly. So, yeah, we're spoilt for choice for who's going to be taking to the front. Plenty of you in the YouTube chat enjoying the stream at the moment. Aaron Walker, Season 1 champion and former teammate of yours, Stephen. Looks like he's enjoying the action so far. We've got Colin Dunn as well, Declan Bowler, and Aaron Walker's just sending another message. He's enjoying. He says Silky Steve. So, Steve, I think that's a comment on you being in the comms box with us tonight.
Well, that sounds a lot better than Sideways Steve.
yes. Choosing to ditch the Sideways Steve name tonight, but I'm sure we'll see you back in action sometime shortly. So as the drivers now head off on the warm-up lap for this, the first round of the GT4 Simsport Season 5 season. And I'll say season one more time just for good luck. Michael O'Brien leading the pack away. And on your warm-up lap, Stephen, what's your mind turning to? Are you thinking about, have you put enough fuel in the car? Are you trying to mark out a strategy for the first corner? What would you be doing on a warm-up lap?
On your warm-up lap, you've got your fuel load already sorted out. That's already done. That's done, sealed, and whatnot. So you can't really, you don't really want to think about that too much. The warm-up lap. The main thing you're going to be thinking about is your tyre pressures. Trying to keep them up to a decent pressure and the optimum temperature, because obviously the run into the first corner is going to be probably quite important. Well, the first lap usually is quite an important one. So making sure you've got the brakes up to temperature and your tyres up to pressure. It's a big thing.
And David and myself heard from the Ginetta drivers at the weekend, Oulton Park in the British Sprint Series, about getting punctures. And Stephen, how quickly can you pick up one of those punctures? It seems like they seem to come on towards the middle and back end of the race, but can you pick something up like that in the first 5-10 minutes and then be left struggling for the rest of the event?
I think the first couple of perhaps. I mean, if you don't work your tyres enough to get the pressures right for the start, and you are low, the lower your pressures are, and the more you attack the curbs, the more chance you are of losing pressure. I fell foul to that myself in the last race. It was just it's an unfortunate thing, but I mean, some of these circuits, the curbs are that kind of, savage, for a better word.
Yeah. We hear that Dave Hedges and Richard Seaman starting in the pit lane, so a couple of drivers already dropping back down the order. But like you say, Steve, difficult, aggressive curbs maybe is the word you were looking for. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, if you attack aggressive curbs with an aggressive driving style, then you are going to lose or run the risk of losing pressure. I mean, you can stand to lose a PSI of pressure, no problem. That's not an issue. But when you start losing 2 PSI and maybe more, it starts to get a little bit ish.
Yes, brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Stephen. Sebastian Totolanera dropping into the chat before we go racing as the grid line up. Say good luck, have fun, boys, and we certainly echo that sentiment. So as the drivers round the final corner and head up towards the start-finish line for what is the opening round of Season 5 of the Simsport Racing GT4 Championship. Michael O'Brien on the left-hand side of your screen, followed by Matt Richards on the right in the 44 Zansho Simsport Ginetta as they come across the line and take the green flag. It's green flags waving here at Oulton Park and into the first corner at Old Hall. O'Brien able to hold the inside, force Richards round to the outside. Looks like a clean start inside the top 10 and 15 as a car spins off to stage right. That was one of the Ginettas towards the back of the grid. It looks like Will Dendy's picked up a drive through. That might be for jumping the start, but O'Brien's got the job done so far. Matt Richards follows in behind with Tusting, Berk, Bro, Button, Muller and Matzik rounding out your top 8. But a nice clean start, David, from O'Brien. He did exactly what he needed to do on the run into Old Hall.
Yeah, absolutely. He got the inside line and then just kind of shot off like a rapid drain pipe from there, didn't he? Richard Pixley also having a drive-through penalty, unfortunately. And it looked like Will Dendy got right in the wars there. Obviously, yeah, as you said, picked up a drive-through, which you can only assume was for being a little bit too fast on the start. And then I saw him going very, very wide through Cascades down through that first lap as well. So not the best of starts. He'll be hoping for an improvement from there. But otherwise, it's all as you were, apart from Benjamin Tusting, who has dropped down the field a little bit. He's dropped down behind Luka Berk and Jenson Button, who are both going to be looking to improve on their qualifying session into this 45-minute race.
So it's O'Brien that leads Richards out through Knickerbrook. Richards looking like he got a fantastic run in the Ginetta as he climbs up the hill towards Water Tower and Druids. He's closing in on the back of the McLaren, but as we saw in Season 4, that McLaren 570S GT4 does seem to have the legs in the straight line. It has been hit with a rather healthy dose of ballast, though, for Season 5, or 10 kilos. It's one of the lower amounts of the types of GT4 on the grid. Aidan Bro here in 5th place in the 556 Butler Powell Motorsport Ginetta. He was pretty much untouchable in this car on Sunday night, but he's going to have to put some work in and get those elbows out if he wants to pass Button, Burke, Richards, and then have a shot at O'Brien for the lead. But after the first lap, it is O'Brien that leads with a gap of less than 2/10 over Richards in the Zansho Simsport 44 Ginetta behind Luka Berk. Reigning champion in the 87 Cayman follows in suit, and then they've got a little bit of room back to Button in the 22 Alpine, with Bro tucked in behind the top 10, separated by a matter of seconds. I think if you blinked they would all come past at once, but Matt Richards looking for a way past O'Brien for the lead. Will Dendy now down in 14th. He's still to serve that drive through. He's probably going to be staying out for as long as possible to wait for some gaps to open up and maybe some drama to befall his competitors, so that he doesn't lose as much time as he would taking the drive-through at the moment. But he's only got a couple of tours of the Oulton Park circuit before he will be required to head to pit lane. But Richards looking feisty here, and it's the same scenario again, David, as we had in the Ginetta series. Richards in second, looking for a way past the leader from very early on.
Absolutely, yeah. Hopefully he doesn't have the same sort of issue he had last time. I think he had a flat spot and then a fairly hefty puncher in the Ginettas on Sunday night. So hopefully the same ending doesn't be before him this evening. Hopefully he gets a better chance, and he's certainly putting the squeeze on Michael O'Brien. We saw how much pressure he was putting Aidan Bro in the Ginetta there on Sunday evening. I'm sure what he'll be hoping is the fact that he's able to actually make that pressure tell this time, try and force some sort of error, or just get the move done at some point over the next 41.5 minutes we've got left.
And as the top three stretch away at the front of the field, they've now got a 1.5 second advantage over Button, Bro, Tusting, Moller, Buncombe and Matsic in this little train that's forming. Actually, it seems like Burke made a mistake through Old Hall there and has really dropped off the back of Richards. So it's now, well, the leading trio has now become a leading duo, with O'Brien still leading the way with 41 minutes on the clock. Tusting leading the AM class, although I'm pretty sure that classification might change as we see Muller and Buncombe getting together. They've had multiple issues with each other in other series, and Buncombe cutting through the tyres, and he makes contact with one of the Mob 7 McLarens and spins them round. So that's a difficult incident there for Buncombe. He did have many warnings last season for some incidents on track, and his inconsistencies really killed his championship challenge. But through the Shell Oils hairpin, it's so difficult to get the car stopped already into that hairpin, Steve, let alone on the grass. But that's a little bit tricky trying to rejoin there through the tyres.
Oh, totally. So unfortunate. Unfortunately, when you're on the grass, you are literally just a passenger. There's no way you can brake. There's no slowing down. You've just got to kind of let the car do its own thing. Unfortunately, with a corner like that, it's and if you're fighting in a kind of a close field, it's only going to end up in with one result.
It's ended in tears, pretty much so for Chris Shaw. He looks like he's tumbled down the order outside of the top 10. That would look like the driver with the Mob 7 Zansho Esports McLaren that was collected there by Al Buncombe. But at the top, it's still all the same as O'Brien leads 3/10 then from Richards. Burke still at 1.5 seconds back. Dendy serving his drive through and tumbling down the timing screen on the left hand side. Speaking of Andrews in the 29 Ginetta, looking to challenge Gav Utley in front and defend from Marquez behind in the 93, heading down towards Cascade, a tricky braking zone. The car wants to fight you and go every other which way than the one you want it to, as they now head on towards this back straight towards the Island Bend and the Shell Oils hairpin, where we saw that drama with Al Buncombe, as Yannick Muller, recovering from the incident with Buncombe, looking to challenge Matsic in the Butler Powell Motorsport BMW, heading up towards the chicane here at Britain's, able to get the car stopped. Muller looking faster than Matsic at the moment and looks like he wants a way past as they head down the hill towards Hislops and Knickerbrook. He cuts to the inside, maybe to distract the BMW rather than to actually put a pass on him, as they turn right and left and clatter the curbs. And again, right again. Muller looking like he's going to be challenging this BMW very shortly. We've seen how quick the Alpine is round here. And David, this is what we love about GT4 racing. Plenty of shapes and sizes and plenty of unique characteristics of these cars.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. It's proven for some cracking racing so far. And as I'll always say, if we continue to get another 38 minutes of this, I'll certainly be a happy boy. I'll also need a very long sleep tonight if we keep going. As I see Benjamin Tustin going up the inside of Aidan Bro. Is he managing to make the move stick? Coming through Deer League, looks like he has managed to make that move done, which is a good move indeed, to be fair, and holds on to it going into Old Hall. But yeah, brilliant collection of cars here, and I always think that, generally speaking, the GT4s do lend themselves to fantastic racing, just due to the size of them. You've got the ability to run a couple of cars wide in a number of different areas around this Oulton Park circuit, and as such, it's given us a first 7 or 8 minutes of some brilliant racing and some already fantastic overtakes.
Well, you can run side by side, but more often than not, you need a very compliant competitor, don't you? We have seen incidents already befalling Yannick Muller and Alex Buncombe, as Muller looking to recover now, but he's coming under pressure from the 626 BMW behind of Aaron Martin Pilkington. I'm sure the Tron Racing driver will be looking for a way through on his first appearance in that car, as Muller gets a nice exit out of Britain's, up over the crest and then down the hill towards Hislops and Knickerbrook, but he's on the outside. He's going to have to pull something rather spectacular if he's going to get the job done on Matsic there. Opts to tuck back in line behind the BMW as we ride on board. Cameras provided, of course, by our very own Steve Proudley, broadcast director, opting for something a little bit different here, riding on the bonnet of that Alpine, heading up towards Druids. The BMW seems to have the legs in a straight line, but just like that, Yannick Muller closes up on the brakes through Druids. So we head through the undulating back stretch towards Lodge. We might see that BMW scarper away again, and it does. So it looks, Stephen, like the BMW has the legs in a straight line, and if Muller wants to get something done, he's really going to have a tough time about it.
Sure, yeah. Luckily for Yannick, this circuit's not all straight lines. You've got plenty of complicated technical corners which play to the Alpine's strengths. So personally, I think it's only a matter of time before Yannick gets past Matrix.
And as you're saying that, he's already passed him. Yeah.
Fantastic, yeah. Yeah. And Aaron also making a dive up the inside as well.
Let's see if this can come off cleanly indeed. Martin Pilkington now on the outside for the Shell Oils hairpin, as Matrick comes in deep and makes contact side by side. Bit of a send. Martin Pilkington is going to spin round. He manages to grab the brake just before he heads right onto the apex of the hairpin. But that's very disappointing there. The BMW's getting together, and that looked like a little bit too late, Stephen, there from Matsic in the Beamer.
I would say congrats there to Aaron for managing to keep it out of the racing line. But yeah, I think that was Matic's problem there. Probably looked at by the stewards unfavourably, I would have thought.
Well, as Stephen alludes to there, the race result this evening is of course provisional. The race will be reviewed and drivers have an opportunity to protest any incidents. It's all part of the game here at Simsport Racing. We're all here to have a good time and enjoy some sim racing action. Good sportsmanship between the drivers up and down the grid. At the moment, Alex Buncombe looking like he's trying to fight back. He's holding 9th place at the moment, which is pretty strong considering the incident between him and Chris Shaw in the opening 10 minutes at the Shell Oil's hairpin. As you see, Michael Haffenden, the HF Impala 861 Aston Martin, teammate of mine, going side by side with Maciej through Lodge Corner up towards Deer Leap. He's going to have the inside into the first corner at Oulton, but that Aston Martin carrying a lot of ballast indeed, 40 kilos, and actually he's not able to hold the position. Straight line, that Aston Martin looking pretty weak in comparison to the BMW, and he's got a Ginetta in behind for company. Here's Johannes Weiss in one of the other BMWs, the Butler Powell Motorsport 271, looking to challenge Lem in the number 3 Ginetta, as we see the cars rounding through Island Bend and in towards the Shell Oil's hairpin. And with 12 minutes soon to elapse in this race, it's flying by, but I'm pretty sure Matt Richards will feel like it's taking an age as he's challenging again on O'Brien. He seems to have really caught up in this middle sector, heading out through Knickerbrook and up the hill towards the Druids Corner, one of the trickiest double apex right handers you'll ever encounter in the sim racing world, as Richards opting to tuck in behind the McLaren of O'Brien in front and see if he can make something happen as they run down towards Lodge at the final turn. Richards really looking for a way past shortly. Berk, though, doesn't look like he's going to be challenging too much behind, a 1.8 second gap. So it looks like the leading duo really have the pace on the pack as it stands. Benjamin Tusting here in that number 64 Mob 7 Zansho Esports McLaren, challenging Button for 4th place. So behind Aidan Bro as well, now closing. And we saw, David, how quick Bro was at the weekend. But now it looks like we're going to have to see him make some passing moves as opposed to the fantastic defensive display he put on Sunday night.
Absolutely, Tim. Yeah, I mean, his car was as wide as the majority of the track around here at Oulton Park on Sunday evening, but now he's going to have to try and do the complete opposite. So, I mean, nearly going for a move. In fact, that's not him, is it? It wasn't him going for a move on our Buncombe there. But I can't tell at the moment. It's too difficult to say. But yeah, he's definitely got a different battle in his hands. And I think that proves that Matt did have the pace on Aidan on Sunday night. It just needed to get past him, and now he has. He's now pretty much stuck in exactly the same position he was, just behind a different colour car instead.
Kevin Smith then in the 94 Audi, one of the only Audis on track. I believe it is the only Audi R8 LMS GT4 on the grid this evening. He's coming under fire from Simon Wilkes behind, and in front it's Hanlon Fitzgerald in the Porsche as they head towards the Shell Oil's hairpin. And Kevin Smith looks to the inside in contact again, and that's going to allow Wilkes to benefit from the opportunity and take 2 positions in 1 there, with Johan Pettersson in the 227 Pulse Simsport Ginetta also benefiting from that. But Matt Richards, as close as he's ever been, if not closer this time, on the back of O'Brien heading towards Lodge. And it just looks like O'Brien moves slightly off his racing line to defend. Just to show that Richards isn't going to have an easy time getting past if he wants to. Not that that was news to anyone this evening, with 31.25 minutes to go. 8 laps completed. O'Brien leads Richards by 0.3 of a second, although it looks a lot less than that on your screens, with Luka Berk 1.8 seconds back, the reigning champion in this Simsport Racing GT4 series. Then Jenson Button in the 22 Alpine and Benjamin Tusting here in the 64 McLaren rounding out the top 5. He's putting the pressure on Button, who really has enjoyed his time in this series, raced the Porsche Cayman last season and was pretty disappointed if he had to miss out on any of the races. He really thought he could challenge Luka towards the top, but he certainly had a good time racing, and it's fantastic to see him back. But he's coming under fire from Tusting here in the 64 as they skip across the curbs down at Britain's and head up over the crest towards Hislops, one of 2 very tricky chicanes here at Oulton Park, as Wilkes looking to be passed by Pettersson. They've both managed to get past Smith, and it looks like the Ginetta has got the job done on the Aston Martin Vantage there, heading up towards the Island Bend, but the Vantage looks to be challenging, or maybe just looking to the inside to distract the driver in front. Coming up towards the Shell Oil's hairpin once again. No drama befalling this trio this time round. And in behind, that is one of the Ginettas. Trying to work out who that is. It could be Pixley. In behind, I'm pretty sure it's not, so it might be a driver out of place, looking on the timing screen on the left hand side as they head up towards Hislops. But Matt Richards close in behind, and And Stephen, if you're in this position, there's a driver in front, you feel like you've got the pace and you just can't get past. Do you go for something a little bit ludicrous, or do you maybe just try and force an error from the driver in front?
It's so difficult. It is so difficult. You've got it in the corners, and you know that you're much faster than them. Over a lap, as it were. But as soon as you get to a point where you can stretch, where you'd normally go for the overtake into a corner, they've already pulled that too much of a gap out for you to try and to do that. But it's my opinion that I honestly think Richards will make the move on O'Brien at one point for sure. I think he's close enough, and I think he's got the speed, and he's got the car underneath him to do it. Also, we've got Button and Tustin. They're also catching Berk slowly but surely. This still could be anyone's.
Well, having been passed by Stephen Haley out on track myself a couple of times, I'm pretty sure he knows what will be the action that will be kicking off shortly between these guys. But indeed, Button now closing on the back of Berk, driver who he's said he wants to get the better of, as David alludes to friendly competition. And Matt Richards looks to be really close now on the back of O'Brien, but that McLaren maybe just having enough in a straight line to keep the Ginetta behind, but a slight mistake, understeer from O'Brien through Druids, through the two right-handers, has really opened an opportunity for Richards, who can't quite close enough up on the straight line as they head into Lodge. As the door is shut, slammed in his face by O'Brien as they head up through Deer Leap and cross the line to start their 11th lap, less than 28 minutes remaining. And time is ticking for Richards. He's going to want to make a move because, as we saw on Sunday, David, sometimes punctures can come your way and a race result that you thought you had in the bag goes amiss.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. You're not too far wrong there. And as we heard from a lot of the drivers in the interviews, punctures were not a rare occurrence, were they? I can't remember who it was who finished third in the end in that race, but I think we heard them say they actually went and put a little bit more pressure into the tyres, so that they were a little bit slower to begin with. But if a puncture did befall them, it didn't necessarily impact their race too much. And it's quite an interesting way to look at it. Hopefully we don't see too many, but it'll be fairly obvious when we do, because if I remember correctly, I think you're looking at around about a second a lap deficit when that does happen. So if we start to see some of the guys coming into pressure from steaming positions of comfort, then I think we'll probably know what's happening. And with the curbs as aggressive or as savage as Stephen appropriately mentioned before, it's not beyond the realms of possibility. We're going to see quite a few of them throughout the rest of this race.
We saw Rene Butler there coming into side-by-side contact with Will Dendy in the 28 Porsche Cayman, and that allowed Michael Haffenden to benefit. So Haffenden now looking for a chance to really get on the back of this train that's forming behind Matzik, who we saw involved in that drama early on, followed by Isalovic and the other Tron Racing BMW. Then it's Stin Paspont opting to change the Ginetta, which he has raced in 3 seasons of the GT4 Simsport Championship, for that Maserati, the Squadra Volante team, new to this series, with then Will Dendy challenging behind, and Haffenden in that HF Impala Aston Martin, with Butler and Gav Utley in the third Alpine at the back of this train. And when you see a train form like this, Stephen, do you try and force your way through, or are you just kind of sitting back and waiting for the fireworks to kick off? Because more often than not, the fireworks do get let off.
You can play it 2 ways. You can either be quite aggressive and go for the move yourself and get it done sooner. But obviously, we have somebody off there, or we kind of, you kind of sit back a little bit and think, well, the guy in front's going to go for it, and it might take them both off. But I mean, you could be waiting 5 or 6 laps. Oh dear, that's a bit of an Ori.
Yes,
right there. But I mean, you could do it 2 ways. I mean, obviously, you send it up the inside and be cheeky, or you can wait for them to get into each other in front and take the spoils of 2 spots instead of just 1. But it's one of them things. It's racing at the end of the day, and you can never tell what you're going to do in the heat of battle.
It looks like from bad to worse, as Angus Martin has connection issues in the 863 HF Impala. He's dropped out of the action. It looked like that was Michael Haffenden having an incident into Lodge, as Richards now challenging O'Brien through Druids. That seems to be where he has his best opportunity. And on this undulating stretch towards Lodge, the McLaren just seems to pull away from him. and he's unable to make the pass. He does have that speed through the corners, but the McLaren does seem to have the legs in a straight line as they cross the timing line to start lap 13. A 3/10 gap between the two of them. Luka Berk able to close up slightly, but as we were talking there, as we see a Ginetta over on the right-hand side, Button now hasn't got it easy with Tusting behind, and he's caught Berk in front. Button seems to be enjoying that Alpine, David.
Yeah, he certainly is. I mean, I was expecting him to appear in the Porsche, but he's gone for the Alpine, potentially due to the ballast that's obviously been applied to the Porsche. It's 50 kilos that he's not got to carry around with him. He's under a lot of pressure from Benjamin Tustin there, despite his, like I said before, being his first race. He's not shy of mixing it with the big boys, is he? He's certainly throwing his weight around, as they say. But yeah, Luka Berk seems to have dropped back a little bit. We saw him have a bit of an incident, should we say, or a bit of a moment on the about 2 or 3 laps ago, which dropped him back into the clutch of these guys. But interestingly, unlike what I've seen of him in other series, he's not pulling away like he normally would. You see Benjamin Tustin get a great run out of the chicane there, and coming in towards his laps, doesn't manage to get the move done on Jenson and covers the inside quite comfortably there. But yeah, Luka not necessarily having it all his own way this evening.
Yeah, indeed. The McLaren looking to challenge the Alpine in front. These two dragged up to the back of Luka Berk, the final podium position. But it looks like that slight interaction between the two of them has just cost them a little bit of time. They're now a second back on the reigning champion, as opposed to a couple of tenths, as there's traffic up ahead. One of the Ginettas, that's really going to cause trouble for O'Brien and Richards, and this is an opportunity for Richards to benefit. The Ginetta pulls over to track right and keeps well out of the way, but that might have just cost O'Brien a little bit of time. He'll be slightly over the start-finish line, taking a rather exaggerated racing line to break the slipstream of Richards behind. But as we tick under the halfway point of the race this evening, that Ginetta actually might come into play on the run down to Cascades for Button and Tusting in this battle, with Aidan Bro now joining the party. But as it stands, Michael O'Brien leads 3/10 advantage over Matt Richards in the 44 Ginetta. Then it's Luka Berk holding on to that final podium position as it stands, with a slightly elongated gap now back to Button, 1.3 seconds in fourth. Then it's Benjamin Tusting in the 64 Mob 7 Esports. Zansho Cobb behind, 4/10 back. Then it's Aidan Bro in the 556 Butler Powell Motorsport car in sixth, with Yannick Muller, Al Buncombe, Luke Rogers and Regan Mitchell in the 69 Squadra Volante Maserati, rounding out your top 10. And the driver currently in a reverse grid pole position is Marquez in the 93 BMW, but Richards closing up now, and O'Brien once again weaving down the straight to break that slipstream. He knows it's in the straight line, he's got the advantage. Richards looks to have, getting close to an overlap through the left and the right again of the chicane down the hill at Hislops and Knickerbrook as they head up the hill towards Water Tower and into Druids, which is where Rich has been challenging, and he looks again to the inside as we're looking back from the McLaren Zansho team rocket number 7 of O'Brien towards that Ginetta who's closing in. And really it's going to be Richard's really going to have to force the door, and there's contact between the two of them. It looks like Richards hitting the back of O'Brien there, Stephen.
I think this is just a matter of time before he makes the move. I think he's going to have to make a damn dared move, I think. That's if Luka doesn't catch them beforehand, because he seems to be kind of catching up onto the back of them ever so slightly. But this is fascinating.
A really exciting battle between these two drivers at the front of the order, and as Stephen alluded to there, yes, it is Ginetta, sorry. Matt Richards making contact with the back of O'Brien, and he's really the car who's looking like he's going to make a move sometime soon. That original move didn't come off, but Berk is closing in behind, now a 1 second gap down to 9/10, with Button, Tusting and Bro still locked together for 4th, 5th and 6th places, heading out of the Shell Oil's hairpin towards Britain's chicane, the left and the right. And now we have Regan Mitchell, who's looking to challenge Luke Rogers in the Butler Powell Motorsport Ginetta as they come down towards the Shell Oil's hairpin. Mitchell closing up nicely. A 3/10 gap separates the pair of them, and they've got the best part of 2.5 seconds back to Weiss in 11th place. As we see a Porsche parked over to the right-hand side, but return to the battle, and O'Brien goes wide on the exit of Knickerbrook, and that's allowed Richards through, and he will take that. No need to force the door open himself. O'Brien made the unforced error, and that's allowed the Ginetta through. Matt Richards takes the lead with less than 20 minutes to go, baton handed over. And David, do we think we'll see Richard scarp off into the distance, or will O'Brien be closing back in?
Well, I mean, looking at the pace that Matt Richards has got at the moment, you wouldn't be too unsurprised if he disappeared at the road, would you? He certainly managed to gain a bit of time because of that. And I mean, he didn't need 2 invitations there, did he? Straight at the inside. Michael O'Brien a little bit wide at Knickerbook, got onto that grass, and that grass really sucks you out from the black stuff and pulls you into the greenery. So as you can see there, lost the move, and then as a result loses the current race leader. Now he's going to be under a lot of pressure from Luka Berk, as Matt Richards already 7/10 ahead, so he's definitely starting to break that gap, and he's going to try and make that gap as big as possible, get himself out of the tow, and hopefully try and disappear off into the distance for the race win.
The man on your screens at the moment, that was Jenson Button, who was carrying some momentum up to that top 3, but looks to have dropped off slightly from Luka Berk. He's turning up the wick now to catch the leading duo. Now, of course, switched in their positions, but Regan Mitchell here in the Squadra Volante, number 69 Maserati, doing a stellar job at the moment in 10th place on the back of Luke Rogers. These two, best part of 4 seconds back on Al Buncombe in front, as Mitchell looking to the inside, the door not open that time, stating his intentions and making it known that he does want to get past the Ginetta in front. 2 very different cars, one pretty much a go-kart with a body kit on, and the other one a big grand touring machine with no traction control, no ABS. It's a bit of a party animal indeed compared to some of these other GT4s, but side by side down the hill towards the chicane at Hislops. Mitchell on the outside opts to just tuck in back behind the Ginetta as they go through the left and then the right of Knickerbook. Vice closing up behind. And Stephen, that mistake from Michael O'Brien, is there any coming back from something like that, or is the pace just too close at the front? We see now he's in the best part of a second down on Richards.
Yeah, if I'm honest, I think that's a done deal. I think Richards is just going to kind of slowly walk away. I don't know, O'Brien seemed to be a little bit kind of off after that. Whether he's kind of harbouring some kind of low pressure or loss of pressure issues, I don't know. But Luka seems to be there on the back of him as well. But I think we're looking at a Ginetta starting to ramp away at the front now.
Matt Richards trying to make amends for the incident that befell him at the Simsport Racing Ginetta British Sprint Series on Sunday night, where he suffered a puncture and lost a podium position in the final 10 minutes. And with 16.5 minutes remaining in this race, you wouldn't count against any more drama taking place up and down this field, as we see Aaron Martin Pilkington now in the Tron Racing 626 BMW challenging the back of the 29 Ginetta of Andrews ahead. These two have been locked together for much of the last 20 minutes. Pilkington looking for a way through, but unable to find it there as they exit the very banked hairpin and head towards the chicane at Britain's. But Luka Berk now, he's challenging O'Brien. So O'Brien's seeing a Ginetta scarp off into the distance, and he's had a Porsche catch him very quickly behind. So it's a new challenge for him as he exits Druids. The Porsche with a lot of ballast on board. But the one thing that is on board, and that car, is Luka Berk, the GT4 reigning champion, who's going to be doing his best to retain his title and be the first driver to do so in this championship. It looks like Button's just dropped off behind, maybe starting to focus on testing behind rather than the cars in front, and that momentum we saw him carry earlier on in the race has seemingly disappeared. But anything can change in this final 15.5 minutes as Luka Berk heads through Cascades, a mild understeer through the corner there, which is going to see him run all the way out wide over the curve. In fact, all of this front 5 and indeed 6 with Bro in the background do the same, with Vice now challenging the Maserati of Mitchell into Old Hall, and it looks like he's up the inside, could get the job done, but Mitchell, fantastic driving, holds the position around the outside and just gives a little wiggle of the tail of that Maserati just to show off that he's still in front. That car, such a challenge to drive with no traction control and ABS. It's back down the order here. Richard Simmons in the Skulldugger's 83 Audi, looking like he's doing a fantastic job in 28th at the moment, closing up towards Hudson Fitzgerald in the 66 Porsche in front. A nice little battle pack here with Smith and Pixley up ahead as Pixley goes to the inside of Smith in the Audi and gets the job done through Lodge, heading up towards the start-finish line. If he wants to gain another position, he's got a rather lengthy margin to try and overturn, some 7.9 seconds ahead to Chris Shaw, who we saw in the wars earlier with Al Buncombe, heading into the Shell Oils hairpin with 14.5 minutes to go. Stin Pasquant here in the Squadra Volante 444. Maserati working on the back of Isalovic with less than 14.5 minutes to go up towards the chicane at Britain's. And we've seen drivers using the curbs rather liberally here, Steve. And like you say, they're pretty aggressive. So will drivers be starting to feel, the wear of the tyres now with 14 minutes to go?
And give it another, I reckon, between another 5 or 10 minutes, you'll certainly start to feel the difference. It also depends how how aggressive you are with your throttle and whatnot. Certainly the Maserati might start feeling a little bit with obviously no ABS or anything like that, so you tend to spin up the tyres and lock up a lot more than you do with the other cars. I think that may have been Cameron there off on the grass, but yeah, I think it depends. Again, it's down to style of driving. If you like to boot it out of a corner, then you're going to get more wear, as it were. And
this battle forming here for final podium positions. That's O'Brien in front in the green and in the yellow and white. McLaren number 7 with Luka Berk, Jenson, Button and Tusting in behind. So these four are all scrapping over the final 2 spots as Matt Richards seems to be disappearing up the road. Now 1.4 second advantage over the McLaren. This quartet all together now. And fireworks likely before the end of this one, David.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. This has soon become a quartet for the final couple of podium positions. It's giving Matt Richards a chance to disappear off into the distance and have a bit of an easy run of it going into the last 12.5 minutes. But Jenson Button going a little bit wide there through Druids. It's going to put him under a bit of pressure from Benjamin Tusting. He's not going to make any form of move going into Lodge as they go on to lap number 20 now. And it's starting to get a little bit feisty here. Jenson's a little bit closer behind Luka, that he's probably closer than he has been all the time. And I think it's, as Stephen mentioned a few laps ago, Michael O'Brien, as soon as he had that incident through Knickerbrook and lost the race lead to Matt Richards, he seems to be struggling to get back into his rhythm at the moment. So I think that's giving all of these guys a bit of a chance to bunch up. And let's not discount Aidan Bro out of this one, because as you can see, he's only just a second and a half or so behind this gaggle of cars. So make it a quintet soon if we're not too careful.
It looks like Jenson Button slightly yo-yoing off the back of Luka Berk in front. He's able to close up through some parts of the track and then lose out through others. That was Tusting running rather deep and close to the back of that Alpine A110 through the Shell Oils hairpin. Jorge Villa in the YouTube chat saying they are so close, and that is why we like GT4 racing. It doesn't matter what shape or size your car is, they always seem to be locked together in action. This quartet scrapping over the final podium positions with Stin Pasquant here in the 444 Maserati, looking like he's got plenty of friends for company. Rene Butler and Adam Isalovic in front with Gav Utley in the Alpine behind. Contact between the BMW and Butler in the Ginetta. They're going to go spearing off to the left, which then comes across to the right as the track turns left. And unfortunately, they all seem to avoid drama, but Pasquant on the exit seems to get a tank slapper on and spin off towards the grass on the inside. So this pack are all going to come charging back together as they head down towards Island Bend through the quick left. And they all managed to fall into line just about. Butler looking for a way past. And with the Ginetta on his outside there, that's Johan Pettersson in the 227 Pulse Simsport car. A lot of drama then kicking off through the first corner at Oulton down the hill towards the Cascades. And the driver who's really benefited from that is Ollie Gill in the number 18 Ginetta, that light white and blue car getting through. He's really benefited from that. Looks like 2 or 3 positions he's actually gained, and sometimes got to wait for an error as opposed to force the door open yourself. But Button dropping off the back. There's an Audi off onto the right hand side. That looks like Smith has unfortunately had some sort of incident there, but he rejoins the track safely, waits his turn to return to the racing surface, as Button now looks to have slightly dropped Tusting behind, so his eyes might look forward more than they were looking back, as the McLaren was challenging him. Turn his attention to catching Luka Berk. Friendly rivalry between these guys, all members of Zansho Simsport in some degree. And big carnage on the backstretch underneath the Warwick Bridge. That's Pettersson spinning off both sides. He needs to hold the brake to not collect more drivers. And luckily, the Aston Martin manages to skip through there, but he's stopped now on the racing line as the leading pack seem to come up the hill through Clay Hill, so they'll be with him shortly. Hopefully he can return to action safely and get out of the way. We don't want to see any lap traffic or incidents playing hand in this battle for the victory, but with 9.5 minutes to go, it's really closing up at the top. But Richards managed to stretch out a gap from the other podium positions, as we see Daniel Andrews here challenging Aaron Martin Pilkington in the 626. These guys have really been locked together. So we see the Porsche just opting to take to the escape road. Hopefully he waits his turn in rejoining and does so. Nice sportsmanship between all the drivers out there this evening. Great to see at the first round of the championship. And Stephen, we say this championship's about consistency, but really a nice performance in round one can carry that momentum onwards.
Oh, totally. Yeah, absolutely. I think finishing in the top 15 is of utmost importance, really. I mean, you can go for the win if you want, but I think if you finish in the top 15, that's the most important thing. It's good points, and obviously the reverse grid can lead to a very better result in the next round. It looks like the incident that we just saw looks like Gav Utley. I'd be interested to see what happened there. Gav was the guy who was backwards on the circuit, collected by another driver. I'd been interested to see what happened there, but that's rather unfortunate for Gav, who was doing quite well. He made it through the melee earlier of the first 2 or 3 corners of the other cars going off, as you mentioned earlier. But this is looking spicy. This is looking really spicy now.
So Richards then lapping 4 tenths faster than the pack behind. So he's extending his advantage with less than 8 minutes to go in this opening round of the Simsport Racing GT4 Season 5 here at Oulton Park. It's now O'Brien and Luka Berk battling out the final podium positions, as we're hearing Michael Haffenden suffered a puncture and Adam Isalovic has just pulled off with a puncture as well. So tyres playing a part in this evening's action, and we could see them having a hand in the order later on, with only 7.5 minutes to go. It's not over till it's over here at Oulton Park. Luka Berk really looking for a way past O'Brien as they cross the line to start the 23rd lap into Old Hall. Berk looking faster, but looking like he's going to have to force an error from O'Brien, but we've seen one of those before, David, and we might see another one from him.
Absolutely, yeah. We know he's not. He's clearly not as as consistent as I might have expected from him, but like you say, when you put under this amount of pressure, it's difficult to hold on to that the entire way through. Big shout out actually to Will Dendy at the moment. Of course, we saw he had a very eventful first couple of laps, because the drive through from the start, got caught up in a couple of incidents going through cascades on lap 1. He's now only 8 tenths off 15th place, which of course would give him pole position going into next week at Donington Park. So he'll be wanting to get past Wagner Marquez, who's currently sitting in that prime real estate in 15th at the moment. But there's battles all the way down the field. You see Regan Mitchell sliding it through cascades behind Al Buncombe. You've got Steen Pasbon sliding it around behind Butler in the Ginetta. Watching these Maseratis go around is quite amusing, because you just see there's so much power under that right foot of these two guys, and they're amazingly trying to managing to action it really well.
Doing a very good job of wielding the power of the particular GT4, which lacks the driving assist that some of these other and more modern cars have. So a really nice drive from these guys. First time as teammates as well in Squadra Volante and Youth Squad for this season. Johannes Weiss in the 271 BMW, looking to the inside of Mitchell for 9th place, challenging the Maserati in front, and now Buncombe in front of them, somewhat recovering still from that incident in the first 10 minutes at the Shell Oil's hairpin. I wonder if he's carrying damage, and that's cost him time as well as pace throughout the following 35 minutes. There's Michael O'Brien here heading down the hill towards Cascades. Dropped off the back of Richards even more so on that last lap. 2.3 seconds now the gap. He's got 6 tenths behind. As we see, Richards has got a whole healthy lot of traffic to deal with. That's one of the McLarens, Pete Dennis, I think that was, getting out of the way on the way into Island Bend. In fact, the McLaren spears off to the right-hand side, so hopefully he's able to keep it clean and rejoin safely. Actually, it looks like there's a car up in the background. I think that was Button, who may have befallen some sort of drama there. Yes, indeed, Button off at the Shell Oil's hairpin and losing a handful of positions there. He's now dropped behind Yannick Muller, who's running in 7th. And so some action definitely befallen the 2009 Formula One world champion inside the final 5 minutes. It did look like that traffic and that spinning McLaren played a part in that action there. So that's really unfortunate for Button, but he looks like he's still lapping. We'll see what position he is in once they cross the next timing line and the timing tower on the left-hand side adjusts their new positions. As you can see, Button now dropping back behind Aidan Bro and behind Yannick Moller. So it looks like he's okay in 7th place. They held a healthy margin over Alex Buncombe here in 8th place. So he's not gained a position from any drama that's happened to his teammate, Will Dendy, as David alluded to, in 16th here on the back of Marquez in the 93 BMW. And for those of you who are watching GT4 action for the first time here on Simsport, that 15th position is all important because it is a reverse grid pole position for the next race. So although it looks like for a fight for a position well outside the top 10, it is in fact very crucial for your next race. Finish there and you'll start at the front of the grid. No qualifying every round. It's a reverse grid from here on out. Pilkington looking to the outside of Rogers with Andrews in behind. So he's managed to get past Andrews. Now he's challenging Rogers in front. The BMW looking to the inside on the run up towards Old Hall. It has got the legs, that M4, and he's pulled alongside the Ginetta and gets up the inside, just using the strengths of that car with 3 minutes to go. Cracking drive, I'm hearing from Steve Proudly. He's enjoying this fantastic performance from Pilkington in the Tron Racing 626. Another position gained. He'll be inside the top 10 for the first time this evening. Regan Mitchell now in the Maserati, hanging on to it to some extent. I mean, he does have experience in this car, as Stephen Haley alludes to. A number of drivers, though, opting to switch things up and change cars for this season. So a nice embrace of new liveries on the circuit, one of them being this Quadrivolante Maserati. A nice black and white colour scheme, very striking and very scary. And Alex Buncombe is probably feeling slightly scared by that Maserati in his rearview mirror, David.
Yeah, it's not the smallest machine on track at the moment, is it? It's certainly going to take up a lot of ours wing mirrors. So he's going to have a wing mirror full of Maserati, which is not what he wanted. Regan Mitchell going a little bit wide there. He would have been quite pleased to see him doing that, though. Did notice that Yannick Weiss has actually dropped down a couple of positions as well, Tim. I did see him just after we were talking about Jenson Button getting collected by one of the backmarker McLarens. Still trying to confirm exactly who that was who collected him, unfortunately. But Yannick Weiss did something very similar. Watched Regan Mitchell and Al Buncombe go through the island bend without any issue. I think Yannick just got a little bit of understeer and then careened straight off into the tyre wall down at the shell hairpin. So he's dropped himself down. I don't know whether he's carrying damage. It looked like a fairly hefty whack on that tyre wall, but at the moment it's put him down the positions. But in theory, actually, it's benefiting him for next week at Donington.
Yeah, to some extent, I suppose. Yeah, reverse grid, of course. Start slightly higher up the grid. As we see Daniel Andrews here, Pilkington's rather scabbered off into the distance as he's got past these two Ginettas. He's really started to make some headway, a 1.7 second gap now he holds over these two with 1 minute to go. I think we're going to have one more lap, but we'll have to see where Richards crosses the line when that timer hits 0. 25 laps completed, with O'Brien in second place as it stands. Luka Berk still holding on to that podium position in third, with Benjamin Tusting in the Mob 7 Zansho Esports McLaren in fourth, 9/10 back. Then it's Aidan Bro in the 556 Ginetta in fifth place, with Yannick Muller in the 43 Alpine in sixth. Jenson Button obviously involved in a collision, now down to seventh, with Al Buncombe Mitchell and Aaron Martin Pilkington rounding out the top 10. And then it's Daniel Andrews here making a move on Luke Rogers round the outside into Hislops. He's unable to get the job done, and Rogers able to hold that position in 11th place now for a little bit longer. 20 seconds now on the clock, so drivers could be about to head on to their final lap. Here we go, Richards rounding Cascades, and traffic up ahead. Looks like Pixley off and rejoining the circuit, so Richards is going to have to some traffic to look forward to on his final lap, with Michael O'Brien 1.4 seconds back and Luka Berk a further 2 seconds back in third, with Tusting for company into the Shell Oils hairpin though. Heads Matt Richards in the number 44. And Stephen, it's been a class drive really from Richards after he got past O'Brien. He hasn't been challenged at all really, as we see Mitchell putting the heat on Al Buncombe as they run down towards Cascades on the final lap.
Absolutely. Yep. I think Richards had the measure. I certainly had the measure of O'Brien. I think right from the beginning. I think it was just a case of waiting to try and get that pass done, cleanly and without issue. I think it's also could it be only a matter of time before Regan gets Buncombe. That's looking quite spicy too.
So we'll see if Regan Mitchell can gain another position on this final lap here at Oulton Park, the opening round of the Simsport Racing GT4 Season 5. As Matt Richards heads on to the back straight, he'll go through Lodge and Deer Leap one final time before taking the checkered flag for the number 44 Ginetta. The Zansho Simsport car of Matt Richards rounds the final corner and heads up to the timing line to take the checkered flag, and he wins the opening round of the Simsport Racing GT4 Championship, followed by Michael O'Brien and Luka Berk round out the podium with Benjamin Tusting in 4th. Aidan Bro fights through to 5th with Yannick Muller 6th. Jenson Button will cross the line in 7th place shortly, and these guys fighting over 8th and 9th behind. Al Buncombe certainly feeling the heat from Regan Mitchell in the Maserati as they go under the bridge and into Lodge one final time. Mitchell to the outside. He brakes late and looks for a way past Buncombe. The door is still open, and on the exit, Buncombe runs out wide just to show Mitchell the door. A valiant effort from the Maserati driver to try and get a position on that final lap. 8th and 9th, they cross the line with Aaron Martin Pilkington. There's contact behind. That looked like Luke Rogers in the wall and reversing over the finish line to some extent as Philip Matchik, his Butler Powell Motorsport teammate, comes through to take 13th. Marquez then in 15th. Looks like he's set to take that reverse grid pole position, but wait for them to cross the line with Rene Butler here looking for a way past Ollie Gill in the Ginetta. Looks like that might be Will Dendy slowing up ahead there in the Zansho 28 Porsche. Indeed, it didn't look like he was slowing. Sorry, I thought we were. I'm trying to create some drama. Can you see? Not my bad. I need to just see what's going on. As there's a Ginetta parked up to the right-hand side across the line. Chris Shaw here in the other Mob 7 Zansho Esports McLaren, number 58, coming through Lodge one final time, and unfortunate to be involved in some drama early on with Al Buncombe. I'm sure he'll be putting a protest in on that one after the checkered flag falls. Richard Pixley in 22nd behind, but a really interesting encounter to say the least, David. We saw a fantastic battle at the front, but really drama up and down the field.
Absolutely, yeah. What a display from Matt Richards. He managed to right his wrongs from Sunday night, didn't he? Put Michael O'Brien under an immense amount of pressure, and it finally told. And he managed to drive away to a very impressive race victory. But we weren't short of action throughout the field. A couple of incidents, of course, we saw. So the results that you're going to see just a second ago, of course, as we always say, will always be provisional, subject to any inquiries that get pushed through. But great work from everyone. Big shout out to Wagner Marquez, of course, getting the reverse grid pole for next week. And I was just very, very fortunate to look towards Luke Rogers because, of course, you saw him get spun round on the final lap as he went up the hill towards the start-finish line. I was worrying a little bit he might have reversed across the line and not actually made it through in the top 15, but it looks like he did. And if we've got anything like we had this evening for the next 5 weeks, I'm sure we're in for a fantastic rest of the championship.
So, Stephen, first time in the commentary box with us. Your thoughts on the action then this evening? It must feel a little bit strange watching on and not taking part yourself.
Yeah, it's certainly quite different from this side of the cameras. I would have loved to have been on the grid. My choice of car would have been perhaps the only one that would have been on there, really. But it's all good fun, and it's fantastic to see all these guys fighting. What a great race we've been watching tonight.
So I'm going to head down towards the interview room, but David, heading now towards the next round at Donington Park, like we say, that reverse grid. It's a change of scenery for these guys. You know, you get used to qualifying and being ahead, but that reverse grid does often throw up more drama, doesn't it?
Absolutely, Tim, and yeah, plenty of chance for overtaking at Donington. Of course, very different in terms of circuit. Still, what I suppose you class as a club circuit, so it's still fairly tight, fairly technical. But it's going to be interesting. Of course, it'll be the first time these GT4s will have managed to get the chance to go down towards Donington for this in this Simsport Racing community. So it's going to be interesting to see how we get on. But I'm assuming you're now down in the booth with all the rest of the drivers, and we'll see what the top three have got to say.
So I'm joined in the commentary booth by our podium finishers this evening, Matt Richards, Michael O'Brien and Luka Berk. And we'll come to Matt first. Matt, making amends for the result on Sunday in the Ginettas. A really nice race from you. How was it out there?
Not too bad, in all honesty. I learnt from the mistakes that I made on Sunday and figured out a temporary fix for the pressure issues that I was having. And that just made sure that I could hold the pace then, really. I don't think there was much that I could answer for with Michael. I think he just had the legs on me a little bit, so a bit lucky with the mistake off the curb. But other than that, just, quite a nice race.
Obviously the best way to start the season with a victory. And like you say, you've made the move on O'Brien when Michael made the mistake at Knickerbrook, but you were able to, stretch the lead on that pack then. Did you have some pace in hand, or was it once the track opened up, you're able to, focus on your lines a little bit more without a McLaren in the way?
I think a little bit of both, really. I think there was a bit of pace that I couldn't extract through some of the chicanes following Michael. And then as well, just being able to focus on getting everything clean and just trying to build as much of a gap as possible, especially for the straights.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Matt, and congratulations on your victory this evening. So, Michael, if you can hear me okay, a very an interesting race to say the least. It's nice to be fighting up towards the front end, but that mistake ultimately cost you the victory. How was your event this evening?
Yeah, I mean, like you touched on there, it was an event of two halves, really. Obviously, the qualifying was mega. I was really happy as well with the car on low fuel. I think I could have potentially squeezed a little bit more out of it, but I got the job done and got a good start in the race, and just really started to struggle in those middle chicanes on the race fuel. The car's quite big and heavy to some of the other cars around me, so I knew I was slow through there. And all credit to Matt, really. He drove the perfect race. I got a bit spooked, really, when I saw that back marker miss the chicane and got caught up on the curb. And I knew once he'd got past, that was race over. So all I could really do from that then on was consolidate second and score some solid points for the championship.
And like you alluded to there, you raced in the previous season with us here at Simsport Racing and enjoying the action indeed. But next time out, as you know, reverse grid. Are you looking forward to fighting your way through the pack at Donington Park?
Yeah, definitely. And I think as we come into the midpoint of the season as well, especially like Donington and Monza, the tracks start to open up a bit more, and that should really favour the McLaren, I would say. So I'm quite glad, even though, I made a mistake today, it cost me a few points. I'm quite glad to come out of here in the top three and then move on to tracks that should hopefully suit the car even more.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Michael. And once again, congratulations on your result. Hopefully we'll see you next time out fighting for the victory once again. And we move on to our third place finisher, Luka Berk. Luka, an exciting race for you. At some points, it seemed like you were a little bit stuck in no man's land, but it must be strange finishing third this season. We've so often seen you on the top step of the podium here in GT4s.
I mean, if I'm completely honest with you, I'm not exactly sure how I even finished up on the podium because the Porsche with the ballast is quite a handful, let's say. But yeah, no, I'm really happy that, well, I came back to the new season with a good result. I didn't really expect to be keeping up with the other guys because I know both Michael, Matt, or even Jenson behind me, they were all rapid. But yeah, I am more than happy finishing where I did.
So like you touch on there, the ballast last season in the Porsche car, I mean, it must have felt very different now, loaded with, I think, 50 kilos. Obviously, there was a bit of banter about giving the champion even more ballast. But how different was the car compared to the last race of season 4 at Snetterton? Is it really, two worlds apart?
I mean, at this point, like last season, I should say, the car already had like 40 kilos ballast, so I kind of got the feel for it. But yeah, the extra 10 kilos, does show, like, especially because the ballast seems to be more towards the front, so it makes the car very front heavy, as if it was front engine. And yeah, it's quite interesting trying to balance that out in a car that's, well, supposed to be heavy on the rear. It can be quite a challenge.
So looking forward to the next race at Donington Park. You managed to keep the quick guys behind this evening, but they'll be in front of you next time out. You're looking forward to fighting through the pack?
Oh boy, I'm excited, but slightly worried. We'll see.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for joining us in the commentary booth here, Luka, and congratulations on your result.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it, folks. Good to hear from the top three there. Some interesting points raised by all of them. Stephen, of course, your first evening in the commentary booth. Will we be expecting to see you coming back for one maybe next week or until the wheel's fixed at least?
Yeah, I would say so. I think if the car's still not ready to rock and roll, then unfortunately you're going to be lumbered with me. Yes.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you in the commentary box, Stephen. And if I had to put you on the spot for a driver of the day, who would you pick?
Driver of the day. Let me think. I would have to say the winner. Not for the fact that he won, but for the amount of pressure he put, the guy in front of him under, and waited for the opportunity to go for the lead, and then yeah, for sure.
So Matt Richards takes one vote. David, who gets your vote?
Well, I would have said Matt as well, but Steve nicked it off me, so I suppose I have to go for someone different. If I had to pick someone like that, I'd probably go for someone like Regan Mitchell. Of course, we know how difficult the Maserati is to drive, but you saw some of the moves he made throughout that evening, and he was so close. Just stopped from getting 8th position, courtesy of a trademark our Buncombe squeeze coming out the final corner. So you take my vote for this evening.
Well, to make it 3 from the 3, I'll give my vote to Benjamin Tusting in the McLaren, and a brilliant opening appearance for him in the GT4 Championship and a very solid 4th place. So as we look forward towards the GT3 Championship here on Simsport Racing, we are at Brands Hatch this coming weekend, I believe, or if I can't get my dates right. But anyway, the season's starting shortly, and if you're looking to join Oulton Park, thank you, Steve, proudly correcting me in my ear, Oulton Park. So we're back again at this fantastic circuit, but for GT3 action. So make sure you tune in for that. And if you want to know when the race happens, then please do like and subscribe to the Simsport Racing channel and hit that notification bell to be alluded to when the race is going live. And something exciting in the works, if ACC isn't to your sim racing taste and you want to get your hands on some iRacing action, a little championship coming very soon. Stephen, Haley, would you like to allude to any more details, or should we leave it at that, a little bit of a tease?
I think we can leave it at that tease, and I think if anybody knows anything in sim racing, they're going to get it quite easily. But yeah, we are really looking forward to it and really excited for what we're going to do with this. So yeah, stay tuned.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Stephen, for joining us in the commentary box, and thank you to David Wressell for once again being alongside me, covering some more racing action here on Simsport. And as we look forward to next week, at Donington Park on the 10th of March for round 2 of the Simsport Racing GT4 Championship. Season 5 got underway this evening at Oulton Park with a very exciting race indeed. But until next time, goodbye.